What's cooking, guys? One of the most important things when it comes to creating a video is making sure the color is good. And the only way to actually make that color look good is to color correct. So in this video, I'm going to go over the basics of color correcting. So color correcting usually comes in after your video is pretty much complete. And to start color correcting, we go over here to this window, the Lumetri scopes. So the two scopes I use for the basics is waveform RGB and vector scopes. This one right here is waveforms RGB. This helps me with like my highlights and shadows. And then you have the vector scope YUV, which is basically just figuring out what colors are really popping. All right, so to get started, you go to your color. You want to make sure you select your layer, so this is the layer that's being affected. And to start, we're going to be messing with the sliders. So these sliders are mainly just affecting this waveform over here. And there's only 4 sliders you really need to worry about: highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. You start with the whites and the blacks, and then those are like the main things. Like the whites affect the top line, the blacks affect the bottom line. And to really like fine tune it, I use the highlights for the top line and shadows for the bottom line. So for example, you can kind of see like I'm not really touching the blacks at the bottom right now. So I'm going to kind of bring the blacks down. You can see that line kind of moves until it almost touches. And then you go to the top and you see like my whites are just like peaking right now. So I'm gonna grab, like I barely even touch the blacks. Usually you don't have to touch the blacks too much and like the shadows, but for the whites is usually the game changer. Bring it down just enough so it's not touching that line. And to really fine tune, I'm gonna affect the shadows just a little bit on that bottom line, and then the top line. You can kind of still see these lines right here, barely, but I'm going to just adjust it a little bit by using my highlights. So if you actually want to check what you did, you can go over into the effects controls, go to Lumetri colors, and toggle the switch. It's not that big of a difference, but before it's like really bright. And I kind of toned it down a little bit. And now let's move over to our vector scope over here. So this is where I bring into the curves. And the curves I really mess with. You can mess with this main graph, but I like to mess with the hue and saturation graph. So like I said, there's a little bit of red here and yellow. So what you can do is you can go over to this little graph, click a point in like the middle of the red. Sometimes it moves down, so I'm gonna have to Command Z it. Just gotta make sure you click it accurately. Now after you have that point, make 2 other points on the opposite sides. Now if I grab this middle dot and I pull it down, you can see that line, that red start to move down. And now it's moving down. And of course you don't want to do this too much, because if you do it too much, you're completely ruining the color of the buildings. So I like to just take it down. I like to make it all a little neutral, like in this middle area. Pretend there's like another small box in this area. That's where I like to bring it around. And maybe you can mess with the yellows a little bit. I like to make another dot here, here, pull this down a little in. And of course you can just do your toggle switch over here to see the difference you made. So these are pretty much the basics of color correcting, and you're gonna wanna do this to all your clips. Before you put a color grade on it, you wanna have all the clips looking pretty much the same. All right, so that's it for this video. If you liked it, make sure you hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe, ring that bell, so you can be kept up with all the notifications for all my other videos that are coming out. And other than that, that's all I got for you, so stay tuned for more. See ya!